Okay, delayed reinforcers. Most creatures, including probably that little girl, as well as the dog that she's playing with, learn from immediate reinforcement. You do a behavior and then you get immediate feedback. Humans, as we get older and throughout adulthood, we learn from delayed reinforcers. We don't have to have the outcome occur right now in this setting for us to realize the relationship between today's behaviors and tomorrow's outcomes. So like being paid every 2 weeks, we recognize the association between our behaviors and what led to our paycheck. I was just watching this expose on 2020 about truck drivers driving drowsy, and this truck driver called his dispatch and said he was really tired, that he was starting to have, like highway hypnosis, and he needed to pull over. He was going to be late delivering, and his dispatcher was trying to tell him, drink some coffee and get back on the road, and the dispatcher tried to use the threat of withholding delayed reinforcers on the truck driver, saying, well, you'll know when you don't get paid that it's a result of you not having completed, meeting your deadline on this delivery. Much more potent to the truck driver at the moment was the immediate consequences of his behavior if he were to fall asleep while he was driving. And so, yes, he was aware of the impact of his behavior on his future outcomes, but he was more concerned about his immediate outcomes. All of us have that kind of balance that we have to make, between having fun right now with our friends versus I probably should be studying because I have an exam next week, right? And why does my exam matter in the big scheme of things? Who really cares? Well, if I don't do well on this exam, then I won't be able to transfer to the upper division school that I want to go to. And if I don't get into the upper division school I want to go to, then I'm not going to be able to get the job that I want. And if I don't get the job that I want, I won't be able to earn those, conditioned reinforcers called money and be able to get access to the stuff that I want, right? I mean, we as adults can kind of look into the future and realize the impacts of our behavior. Delaying gratification is one of those things that is learned as well as sort of innate. Some of us are more naturally conscientious than others. Some of us, when we were really little, were able to delay gratification better than our same age cohorts. They did a test called it's a classic experiment called the marshmallow test, where you take a little kid, 3 or 4 years old, put in front of them a marshmallow and tell them, if you want to eat the marshmallow, just call me back. I'll come back in the room and you can eat the marshmallow. Or if you can wait until I come back in on my own, then I'll give you 2 marshmallows. So you'll get twice as much if you can wait. And some of these toddlers, preschoolers, were able to wait until the experimenter came back, and some weren't. Those who were able to wait were the ones who, when they followed up 20 years later, were more likely to have completed school, were less likely to have become pregnant while they were teenagers. A lot of long-term goal-setting behavior was associated with their resilience back when they were little to delay the reinforcement. I know I'm going to get 2 if I can just wait right now. So delaying gratification is an important skill. Now the question is, are you born with it or can we learn it? And most of us like to fall on the side of we can learn impulse control. Whether it comes naturally to us or not, we can learn it. Alright, so let's say we're trying to train a learner. How often should we reinforce the learner's behavior? One thing you could try is reinforce them every single time they do the behavior. It's called continuous reinforcement. So reward them after the target behavior every single time they do the target behavior. The beauty of continuous reinforcement is if you're working with a creature like a pigeon who doesn't really know what you want from them, it teaches them very quickly which behaviors are desirable. They'll start focusing their energy on the desirable behaviors, and they'll start eliminating the extraneous behaviors. They acquire the desired behavior very quickly using continuous reinforcement. Partial, or some people call it intermittent reinforcement, is when you reward sometimes, and sometimes you don't reward them. Now, if you start from ground zero using partial reinforcement, it's going to take your learner longer to figure out what you are rewarding them for, because you're doing it sometimes and you're not doing it other times. So one of the best things that you can do if you've got a new learner, let's say a puppy, and you're trying to teach them to pee-pee outdoors, reward them every single time they pee-pee outdoors. Every single time, initially. And then as they get a little bit older and more reliably seem to know what's going on, you can start rewarding them some of the times that they're going outdoors, and other times just take it for granted that they're going to go outdoors. That way you can get that benefit of the quick acquisition, but then you can also get the benefit of the persisting longer without reward that comes with the intermittent reinforcement. If you reinforce every single time the learner does the behavior, it won't take very many times of you not reinforcing for them to start to realize, I'm not getting reinforced anymore. I don't want to do the behavior anymore. I wasn't doing this behavior except for the reinforcements. So then they stop doing it. If you're doing intermittent reinforcement, they don't know when the next reinforcer is going to come, so they may stick with it longer. So there are different schedules of implementing partial reinforcement. You can either do your reinforcements based on some interval of time, or you can do the reinforcements based on the ratio of rewards to instances of the desired behavior. So we either have the interval or the ratio method. Under the interval method, we can either do a fixed interval where there's some amount of time that's going to elapse and then we reward. Some amount of time elapses, then we reward. And it's always the same amount of time. So like every 5 minutes, a pellet drops into the rat's Skinner box feeding tray. With the variable interval schedule, it may be 5 minutes and then a food pellet drops in. It might be 30 seconds before the next one drops in. And then it might be an hour before the next one drops in. And then it might be 15 minutes before the next one. You'd have no idea what the interval is. Under ratio, you again have fixed or variable strategies. With the fixed ratio, you're going to reward after every so many behaviors. So you might say every 5th behavior you get rewarded. So you got your little rat in the Skinner box. He pushes the lever 5 times and a pellet comes out. He pushes the lever 5 times and a pellet comes out. It's always on that 5th press that he gets the food. That's a fixed ratio schedule. A variable ratio schedule is unpredictable. Pushes it 5 times and gets reinforced. Then he pushes it 30 times before he gets reinforced. Then he pushes it 1 time and he gets a reinforcement. Then he pushes it 1,000 times. Then he gets reinforced. He has no idea how many times he's going to have to push that lever before he gets reinforced. So interval is referring to time. Ratio is talking about how many behaviors. And then we have the fixed and we have the variable. Okay. So which schedule of reinforcement is this? Getting paid weekly, no matter how much work is done. That's how most of us get paid. We get paid for a week's work, not how many customers we served or how many lectures we gave. We get paid weekly. What kind of reinforcement is that? Well, that's a fixed, that's a fixed interval schedule of reinforcement. Every week you get rewarded. Hitting a jackpot. Sometimes on the slot machine. Ooh, I played the penny slots when I went to go see a comedian at a casino recently, and yes, I am a high roller. They force you to put $1 in there. I was going to go up there with 17 cents in dimes and pennies and try and stuff it in the machine, but apparently they're just too cool to take coins anymore. And yeah, it didn't take me very long to lose the $1. Did not hit a jackpot ever. I did at one point get 8 pennies up, but I never exceeded the $1 I started with. I just got like 8 of my pennies back. Anyway, so hitting a jackpot sometimes on the slot machine. That's a variable ratio. You don't know how many times you're going to have to push the go button, how many times you're going to have to put money in it before you could potentially get a payoff. It could be you could push the button 1,000 times and never hit. But it keeps you coming back because it's variable ratio. Winning sometimes on the lottery that you play once a day. So you go down every day to the local convenience store and you buy your scratchers. Every single day you buy scratchers. And sometimes you win. That is a variable interval because you're playing, sometimes there's more than one day between, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2 months before you hit something. It's also a variable ratio because you're engaging in a behavior, right? You're scratching off your lottery ticket. So you're buying a lottery ticket, that's a behavior. You're scratching it off, that's a behavior. So how many behaviors of buying a ticket and scratching a ticket would you have to engage in? So you've got a variable time period, and you've also got a variable number of behaviors you have to engage in. So it's kind of both. Checking your cell phone all day, sometimes you have a text waiting for you when you check it. That's a variable interval because it could be every 5 minutes that you're getting a text. It could be hours between texts. In my case, it could be days between texts. Nobody knows my number. Buy 8 pizzas, get the next one free. That's an example of a fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement where you have to engage in a certain number of behaviors, buy 8 pizzas, and then you get the reward of getting the next one for free. So that's a fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement. Okay, now which schedule produces more responses? Well, you know what, it really matters what you are hoping to get out of your learner, which schedule you're going to want to engage in. If you want a lot of behaviors, you're going to want to go with one of the ratio reinforcement schedules, because on the far left you see the fixed ratio. Basically, if you're getting reinforced after a certain number of lever pushes, those rats basically would spend their day pushing the lever, just waiting for the food. They'd scoop it up with one of their paws and keep pushing the lever with the other paw. Get a lot of behaviors that way. Variable ratio, where you don't know how many times you have to push in order to get the reinforcement, also produces really good, consistent, lots of behaviors going on in the variable ratio schedule. So if you want to see a lot of consistent responding, go with one of the ratio schedules. Now if you look at the fixed interval, you notice with that the red line that's swooping, what you see is right before the interval is about to finish, all of a sudden you get this flurry of behavior. So if, let's say we have our rat on a schedule where every, what is that, like 20 minutes they're getting reinforced, they'll relax and then just start pushing the lever right before their internal clock tells them that the interval is about to elapse. So think about this with students studying, right? You know that you have an exam coming up, so there will be a flurry of studying behavior. Fixed interval, knowing when the tests are going to be, produces that kind of flurry of behavior right before the interval elapses. If I wanted to see more steady responding in my classes, I might institute pop quizzes, which is kind of represented by that blue straight line that's at the bottom. You get good, not as many behaviors as you get with the ratio schedule, but steady responding, because you never know when the pop quiz might occur. You better keep studying all the time, right? So if you want steady, consistent behavior, you want to go variable interval. If you want a lot of behaviors, you want to go with one of the ratio schedules. All right, let's go ahead and stop here, and we'll come back in the next segment and talk about punishment.